Hey everyone, my name's Daniel Neal, and I'm going to be talking to you about an article I read on coal to gas conversions, also known as CTG. This presentation's for the first contemporary article summary presentation for Capstone 2, and the article I chose was written by David Appleyard, and I found it on Gas Turbine World. So the article talked about coal to gas conversion, or coal to gas conversion for two coal-fired power plants in Alberta, Canada, the Sundance and Keephills plants, and they are both owned by TransAlta, and they're going to be converting several of their units over to burn gas instead of coal to improve emissions and decrease the operating costs of the plant. By doing the conversion, it's also going to allow them to extend the operating permits of the plant and can extend the life of the boilers as well due to having cleaner burning fuel, and overall they're going to experience less maintenance as well, obviously because there's less equipment needed to burn gas versus coal when you have the pulverizers and the conveyors and everything else that you need to maintain. Modifying the existing equipment is the chosen route to go for this project, and they plan to convert everything over and put in new gas burners to allow them to burn gas instead of coal. But they plan on keeping the coal equipment in place in case they ever needed to revert back to it. And at least for the beginning of the process, once they get back up and running, they're going to be blending coal and gas. So they'll need to have all the equipment operational up until the gas line and the gas connections are made. And then once they're up and running on blended fuel, they'll slowly decrease their coal use until the coal equipment essentially becomes non-existent. They don't need it anymore. But it will all be there for future use in case of some event where they need to convert back, which in my opinion, I don't see that happening, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. There's also going to be, the project estimates that there's going to be up to a 40% carbon reduction through the conversion, and this can result in decreased carbon levies, and I'll explain this more further on in the presentation, but essentially the plants could be paying $0 in carbon levies for their emissions. So project details, TransAlta Corporation owns both of the plants, and they have awarded Emerson the lead on the design, installation, and commissioning of the CTG conversion, which is going to be a $1.53 million project, and it's part of TransAlta's clean energy transition, which is expected to be completed by 2025. Like I said, they'll be modifying the existing equipment and leaving the old equipment intact, partly so that they can use blended fuel, and in the future, if needed, they can always go back to coal. The project's expected to pay for itself within a year of operation, which leads for a quick turnaround, and overall makes this project very beneficial for the plant and well worth the investment. Environmental benefits, up to a 40% reduction in carbon emissions can be seen, with possibly down to or less than 0.37 tons per megawatt hour, which is an important number because in Canada, any carbon emissions over the 0.37 tons is subjected to carbon levies, and this article didn't break down to what the cost is per ton going over, and I couldn't find in my research like exactly what they use for a number, but basically anything over that they have to pay. So if they can get their carbon emissions down to 0.37 or lower, they're going to essentially pay $0 for their emissions, which would save the plant a lot of money, because currently they've been operating up towards like 0.6, which means they're getting charged so much for all their overage. Another benefit is there's going to be less ash produced, which means that less ash will be able to get up through the stack. Obviously, between a baghouse or electrostatic precipitator, that takes most of the ash out of the system, although there's always going to be some ash that does escape out the stack, and this will be decreased. There's also going to be less ash that they have to send to landfills and trucking back and forth, and that's its own emission savings right there. Overall, gas is just a much cleaner fuel source as well, So it's just better for the environment than burning coal from the transporting of it and the actual burning of it in the power plant to produce the power. Operational benefits of the conversion mean that there's less equipment needed to operate. You don't need all the pulverizers, the conveyors, which both take a lot of maintenance and upkeeping to keep them in good operating condition. And the equipment for gas is obviously much cleaner. There's no coal dust and ash to take care of as well. It'll also require less employees to run the plant, which will save the plant money from the operations aspect. And with the upgraded control systems that Emerson will be putting in, it will allow the operators to run it more fluently, and they won't need as many operators going around and messing with stuff because it will be more automated than the coal system, and it's not as intensive where you have to sit there and monitor every little thing. It's gas boilers are kind of like a self-running operation. There's going to be a more consistent fuel source coming because they can pull from several different pipelines to get the amount that they need, and the old equipment will remain intact for future use if needed, as I stated before. And to go along with the upgraded control system, the plan is that there's going to be a twin system for a simulator, so operators can be working on that in training during the conversion process. So once the mill comes back up and is ready to operate, all the operators will be trained, and they can train in a safe environment where they're not going to be kind of learning by error on the real system, and any mistakes they may make learning the controls will not actually affect the plant, which is key. So summary, just to confirm like what I've talked about, the CTG coal to gas conversion is part of the clean energy goal, which is expected to be transitioned to by 2025. There's going to be lower emissions from the plants burning gas versus coal, reduced operating costs, and upgraded control systems, which will, that in itself is a major impact on the mill or on the plant, because it'll be more remote, less operator error, and just it'll be easier for the operators to see and control everything in the plant. Old equipment intact can be used again in the future if needed, which again I don't see that being an issue or needing to be used again, but it's always good to have it. And plus they'll save the money of not having to remove that equipment in the first place, and if they ever need it then they have to bring it back in, and just saves the headaches there. Carbon levies could potentially be exempt for the plant if they get low enough emissions, which is expected through the project, at least once they get off the blended gas coal fuel mixture. And the life extension of the plant is like the key takeaway from this article, because plants that would have been shut down coming up here in the 2030s are now able to operate way longer than they would have been able to on their original coal permits, because they have lower emissions, and the government will see that as clean power, and they'll be able to extend the life of their plant and the boilers by having gas burns cleaner, so there's less maintenance and stuff involved in a coal plant. So opinions. After reading the article, I had some opinions on it. Obviously, I think switching over to gas from coal is a really good environmental decision. You can lower your emissions, affect the environment less. From a plant side, they can save operating costs by not having as many employees. There'll be less maintenance on a gas system versus a coal system, and overall, they'll with the upgraded control system, that will help with a lot of it as well. The one downside I personally take away from it is people are going to lose jobs. They're not going to need as many people to run the plant. So even though it's really good to be environmentally friendly and transition to clean energy and not have to pay carbon levies, it's still going to put a bunch of people out of work. I guess that kind of runs with the territory in this aspect, although it's kind of a bummer for those people. But overall, it's definitely a beneficial project and good all the way around other than that aspect of it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them, and move on. My cited references, citing the article, and the couple images I use of the plants, the Keephills and Sundance plants. And yeah, again, let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.